start again. But white people like me, and like a lot of people around me in Western Canada, don't know how to behave and don't know how to relax. So if you invited me to your home, the only way that I would be able to relax if there was just you and me alone with just a nice, simple, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Well, let's see. It's more than you'd normally see. And blue herons, the closest, the most I've seen in a while. They like me, and we get along. Okay? I like herons. They're good energy. And the only place I feel comfortable would be in a meditative home, quiet, simple, clean, pleasant. That's the only way I'd relax. And if by measured degree, I was afforded the opportunity to speak with you about any matter, we could do so. I think you could have but for me, I would want my computer handy and a notebook and a tape recorder, because I have a real interest of getting to the nitty-gritty of things. So for future reference, anytime you abused me or raised your voice, or someone else was invited into the scene who somehow was aggressive to me, that would change the nature of my inquiry. And so instead of talking about things at a theoretical level, I would tell people about my time at your house at a clinical level and combine that with theoretical study about why I was aggressed and why I was led to believe that I was safe when I wasn't, and how it had something to do with me and how it had nothing to do with me, which is what you would expect if you were in a court of law being prosecuted as a totally innocent person born from a mother. It's all connected, right? And I can connect it. I'm one of the few people in the world who can. Not because I'm particularly smart, not because I have any training in law. Training in law or training in any of the usual subjects. Just because I have enough time to myself and I have the courage to do so. And I have a voice. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a scary thing, because so does everybody else. Or they're forced to, like I was. It's like I live in prison. Right? I was stalked for 2 years by members of the local bus profession and police as a cost above that of the $2.50 of getting on a bus one day. And I can tell the story, but I don't want to. I'm actually capable of doing other things. I have a pattern in my life, is when I visit people's homes, or when people are invited into my home, they are always territorial aggressive to me in some way. And if you wanted to study me, or you wanted to study, then just send me to someone's home that you know, and with me camera, and we can, after the evening, we can study our different perspectives, especially if there's alcohol present, right? Especially present, right? Here's a new guy. Time to size him up, and then play all of their strategies and their territorial games, which are all, strictly speaking, social. Maybe one of them would take me to one side and confess something. Maybe someone would be the chatterbox. Others don't have space. Others are all about like drinking a cigarette, and it's like, it's no big thing, man. But really, you can see them smoldering the entire time, right? Because that's their strategy. None of this is really about sex, although for them, it's everything that sex is about. In fact, it's the beginning of sex. Right? It's the beginning of the sexual act. It's the moment they start interacting with me. Okay? On some level. Right? And in a lot of cases, not all. There's nothing to do with how attractive I am. Right? Especially around this area, it's just all you do is have to be a male. You don't look like a total sloth. I've had women talk that way. I mean, I've listened to women speak. Good-looking women. Right? There's a lot more women than men. Nothing to do with me. They don't know anything about me. Right? I'm not worthy of the attention, and I don't want it. But in any case, everything will become territorial. Right? Someone's bound to get jealous, male or female. They're going to become territorial. Right? Because all their relationships are based on deceit and role-playing. Right? Because it's not really about sex, although it's all that sex is to them. Or anything else that comes from it. It is the root. The way these people, in that few hours, this is the root of their lives. Right? This is where they put their sex. This is where they put their faith. This is where the root of their magical thinking. And ethics has nothing to do with it. Right? I've been in rooms with women talking about waiting for me to go to sleep so they can jump on top of me, one after the other. And I tell you, you don't go to sleep in those environments. Right? I've had women invite me over to their homes as friends and leave me with no blankets and then start calling me from the bedroom like horny manas. Oh, are you cold? Well, there's a solution for that. Right? Women of all ages, in their 20s and 40s, all people who wanted to be my best friends. Right? All you have to do is go to their house by invitation. They're like vampires. Right? And the root of it is not sex. The root of it is in primal abandonment. Right? And they just need their daddy. They need what I need, actually. And that's what keeps me open to them. Somewhere in there is a genuine human being with genuine needs. They put their clothes on today. They want to look pretty. They tell themselves they just want to have a nice conversation. They're out to relax. You've come to their house. The wine is pouring. It's time to be my social self. It's time to put out some feelers. I mean, this is how you start to meet a man. You got to talk to him. He's exciting. They start saying things that are inappropriate. They talk too much about themselves. Okay? Because essentially, life is about the first step you take with a person. If you don't approach someone the right way, I'm like a temple on the top of the biggest mountain in the world. And you get to meet me without even climbing up the mountain. Because I climb down and meet you. And you could call your spirit the same thing, right? And what you want for someone who wants to have any kind of reasonable relationship with you, socially speaking, right, is to approach you with respect. Right? It's not my job to tell you how to do that. Life should have told you how to do that. And the reason you don't know that, the reason you don't know how to do that, is because no one's ever treated you that way. It's been erased from your society. Right? You weren't treated like a little king. You were treated like a little turd by someone like a mother and father who already have been abandoned and disconnected from some of the fidelity required with your emotional body and deep brain functions that aren't just there to keep you breathing and not pissing yourself at night. Lo and behold, there's lots of other functions. Don't you think something important enough to keep your heart beating and to raise and lower your pulse could have other functions in your life? Right? Isn't it pretty stupid that you haven't thought about that? That's the role of your emotional body, to give you access to that. Right? Not by controlling your emotions, by just trying to figure out what they are. They're like sea monsters. They're like the Loch Ness Monster, right? Shock is like you're walking along one day, things are going good. All of a sudden, something from the past crops up, and you feel like shit, and you're angry, and you want to pound your fist somewhere or into something or something. There's just this feeling that courses through your blood, like something attacked you, and you didn't have to fight back, and you're pissed. You feel humiliated. You know, you went to a party and something paralyzed you, and they got all of their remarks off, but you never had a retort. You never had a way of protecting yourself. You smiled, they walked away. You were happy or satisfied with their exploits for a few seconds until they went on to the next person. That's what their brain needed to do. Right? And you just feel assault. The person assaulted me in front of these people that I know. The person just acted like I was nothing, and I didn't have a voice of my own. It put me in a precarious position. My body language should have attested to that much, but nobody noticed it because all these people have had that part of their brain cauterized. Because the best way to be fluid, gender or otherwise in the world, is to not notice the emotional and physical body language of other human beings. Right? Mostly what you see around here is they're stiff. They're always stiff, stiff, stiff. Even when they're jogging, they're stiff. Even when they're talking with their friends, they're stiff. They've got that stiff upper lip all the time. It never goes away. I was thinking to myself, no men grow their hair long. You never see positive images of men with long hair, ever, in society, certainly not this part of the world. Always the close cut hair, right? Women get to wear their hair at any length. They can have it shaved, they can do anything. Men, it has to be one length. And so the fact that I have long hair signifies me to people to prey on me, right? Something vulnerable about you, something strange, right? Maybe it's something to admire, maybe it's something to hate, maybe it's something to project upon, something for you can get, if you work at it, if you get through my boundaries. If you start insinuating things about me, or slandering me, insinuating, making something that I haven't said that I am, and is not accurate, because you don't know me as well as you think you do, right? And your compulsions are fully accurate. So, you bring me into this home, or you come to me. It's weird. You come into my home, the listener, but people out there might be. And the people I've had in my home throughout my life, do you know that, too, with one exception, a native woman, right? Not one single person in the Western world that has ever been invited or not into my home, even people who have come uninvited, have ever said one nice thing about me. No. Did you know that? And I've lived in some pretty beautiful places. Okay? Not once. Not once. Not a reference to anything about my physics. Nothing pleasant, nothing encouraging, nothing observant. That is a strange thing to notice, isn't it? Would you notice that? Because you know what? I'll add something to that. To your home or someone else's home. The first thing I notice is how I feel when I come in. The easiest thing to do, especially one-on-one for me, if I'm invited to someone's personal, one of the most often things I'll say is, what a lovely environment. I feel very comfortable. Hey, what a lovely home. Nice place you have. You know, I won't go off to say, this is nice. And you'll know that I mean it, because I feel good. I feel good in this. Because, you want me to, don't you? You'll be proud of that, won't you? You want people to say, not as safe enough to take a crap on your carpet, but just safe. But no one says that when they instead, they go into predatory mode. And 15,000 miles I've walked around, no one has ever complimented me on my hat. No one's ever just said, hey, nice hat. I've never received a remark about my physical appearance from any woman in my entire life, despite being stalked incessantly by females. Yeah. what women do is they get it and try to take me all in, because I won't go into a long litany of negative things about women. It's just I kind of just they're nice ones around like that lady, just doing their thing. It's fine, but I get a pretty high rate of women who just want to take them. And I realize that in terms of hormones, women are supposed to be aware of men. Men are aware of women, and there's always some kind of gender thing going on unless you're a lesbian or something. I get it. I don't like it. And I think it has a lot of interference patterns. If I was in a campground, let's say I don't drink, and an attractive woman with tan skin joined our party, right? And maybe there's 3 or 4 males and females. There's a couple seeing another male. She comes in, she joins the circle, she looks around. Hi. She looks really friendly, rustic, and she probably travels the world and writes poetry. She has a journal, and she has a beautiful clothing. Her breasts are just lolling you from side to side. Oh, the mountain. She's talking about the mountain passes. Songs, sparks are flying up, weed is being passed around. Right? I would close my lower chakras. Then friendly, but that's it. Ding, ding, ding. The mighty hunter. Ding, ding. It was a quarter. Someone dropped on the ground. I thought that was a woman talked if I know it was a teenage girl. I just wasn't paying much attention. It was a teenage girl. So I guess I chose the right person to say that to. A Rottweiler. Big Rottweiler. I would close my lower chakras. I've done that since I was a child. Close the sphincter. There's no way in the course of this evening idea that I'm into sexual politics of any kind. Right? This won't mount whatever penis she wants here, but it's not going to be me. I'm not going to compete for her affection. I just, in fact, the more comfortable she is coming up to a group of strange people and entering into this course, the more uncomfortable I will be. Because I could never see myself doing that and just flipping into that kind of role. And I've met a lot of people like her on the West. So it's just I just think stinky pussy, close my mind to, rotten eggs. I don't want that. I'm not going to address her sexually anyway. At some point, if she gets around to one time, I'll say hello, and that's it. But she'll see that I'm quiet, and I don't really want to have anything provocative to do with her. And she might even, a thought might cross her face, like, oh, why is this guy so close to me? And she might be a little bit, and so be it, right? Because I don't make decisions about women, so I don't have to get offended. I don't assume, I end up lapsing on the side of that assumption. And I've met parties of women, some of whom don't want to look at me at all, as I politely move my eyes to each member of the group to make eye contact with everyone so that I can kind of recognize their existence. Right? Not something I want to be doing, but when it happens, right? Like you say to yourself when you talk to 2 or 3 people at a time, did I look everyone in the eyes? Because you could start to focus on one person, nobody else is there. Okay? And women will do this to me. They'll just start talking to me, and isolating me from a group. And it's really mannerless. And it's not even sexual. Women just love to get a guy's attention and start talking. We're like phones, right? We don't have to have mind of our own. Look at this YouTube channel, like a human douchebag. You can see young people with girlfriends just talking. And it's just sounds coming out of my mouth. It's not a conversation. Are you listening to me? They might say every now and then, oh, yeah, you just said something about Laura Lee and Jenny Hutton going up Mount Doom and finding the garden. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, well, anyway, Jenny D had a Brazilian the other day, and she said that this guy that did it apparently was collecting female pubic hair because one day he wanted to build a pubic person and animate them for a comic book called Pubic Girl, made out of discarded pubic hair by her a Brazilian waxer at a local salon. Well, that's interesting. You got my attention. Yeah, I thought you'd be interested. Anyway, back to the real topic. She was brushing her hair one night, and her brother knocked on the door, and he was like, why is your door closed whenever you brush your hair? And you're like, none of your business. And he was like, what up? And she was like, nothing. And he was like, dope. And he walked away. And this goes on for like an hour and a half every day that he and he's making up stories in his mind to make it more interesting. And by the time his genes will all be converted to her genes, they might as well have already had sex and 3 children. She basically has full control of him now. You know, he gets an erection one night and it's like, this is really, she's been dominating him week after week after week, just with this lazy verbiage coming out of her mouth and into one of his sexual organs, his ears, which are connected to your blood. Your blood is the root of all of your organs, including your sensory organs, right? Your blood made your dick. Your blood made your uterus. What do you think makes all of your body? It is your maker. Your maker is blood. Blood from a stone, right? This is why the original stories, the origin stories of human beings were like blood from a stone, right? And blood of our word makes sound. Your body speaks. It is a poem. Knowledge is a song that courses like the bloods of all the limbs of our minds through all these wild places and beyond. Imagine if that was a TV show. You know, would you watch that? You know, part science, part mythology, cultural anthropology, word spelling, numbers, alphanumeric witchcraft, and things to watch out for. You start turning the station and going, I see things differently now. It's not the same. And it's harder because you could use more of your brain to watch TV, but you don't. And if you did, you'd start to notice the messages that are in it, and that they're delivering into your blood. That changes the way you hear and see the world around you, and the way you think, and they're all connected. There's a chemical profile to how you can be conditioned to use your sensory organs and your sensual organs. And even whether or not you're going to be sexually precocious can be programmed by a television and all the music you listen to. There are other preconditions, but this is what it's good for. Okay? So that a Christian woman reading the Bible can be a total Puritan, and on the weekend she can be a complete prostitute. And that makes sense to her, because the mind being conditioned is the mind of the hypocrite. It is the schizoid mind that can talk about love and not hurting your neighbor, and then join the Marines and go kill Afghanis for 15 years. Right? It all makes sense. Right? God needs what God needs. God is the industrial complex. So your blood becomes your ears. And when you're talking into your boyfriend's ears, blah, 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 and he's paralyzed, and he can't go anywhere, right? You better be putting something nice into his blood, because if not, you're basically raping him. And by the time you have sex, if you haven't, you'll be raping him, because you've been sticking your verbal cock down his oral or auditory vagina for months, right? I mean, he needs to get a chastity belt for his ears. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe ask his consent before you start to verbally molest him. And what do children spend most of their time doing in school? Listening. It's not really listening, because it's not a conversation. They're just cavities and vacuoles for the information that's sent to them which they have to reduce to something, whatever they can get out of it, that tells them what to do so they'll please the teacher that they're doing what they're supposed to and behaving the way they're supposed to and making their potential after they've been reduced to basically a sexual receptacle for the state actor because they're doing their job and they're telling you to do what you're told because if you do, you can be a teacher like them. So you can tell children what to do with such efficiency. And it helps you get a job by blunting your mind and your imagination more than all the TVs in the world because they have you in a physical location and they have a human being. They will never just have computers teaching you. They need human beings to bring the message across. They need a human authority figure. Humans will never be replaced by computers. They could have replaced us by the computers now in almost every job in the world, but they won't because you need human beings to get messages across. Right? Just like they'll never bury the electrical wires because that's where the electricity is coming from, the air, okay? But you're not supposed to know that, so don't listen to me. You live in the real world, the big adult world where you know all the realities that any decent person would know, and I'm just a crazy person. Enjoy your life. But somehow, whenever I get invited to your house, your children, your mothers, your sisters, and your aunties are sexually prey upon and stalk me and humiliate me and fucking rape me. Go figure, eh? Fresh meat. You should announce me with like, fresh meat is coming over for dinner. Oh, good. Your teenage 14-year-old nodding in her seat, all excited. Because you send her to a place filled with hormones every day. And this man's got tons of hormones. I mean, she's going into full cannibal mode. Her eyes can't get wide enough to accommodate me. You know? Pretty soon I look at her for an extra 0.5 seconds, and you could probably fucking arrest me at that point. I'm going to be jigging off like a fucking sand sweeper at night just to get the energy out of my blood. Ooh, that was exciting. You see the way Donna Lee was looking at me? And boy, her blouse was fetching. Because essentially she's just in a fully uncontrollable sexual mode. And she's ovulating. Thanks for inviting me over while your daughters are ovulating. That's lovely. You know, I'm sure we'll have a perfectly natural relation. Oh, you want me to be her softball coach? Oh, wow. I'm not sure if the ball's going to be soft anymore, but let's try hardball. Let's try a hard stick and a bunch of balls and tight pants. Let's do it. Right? Because it's ceremonial witchcraft for sex and war and labor and being a soldier. Goes from town to town, fucking whatever girl gets to be the mother of his children, working for the bank. As an orphan, of course, whose fundamental primal need will never be solved by any group he joins, precisely because he needs a surrogate mother. And to fill that role himself by taking on a job and a professional identity in the world. Now, nothing about having those identities and jobs is really wrong, except the reason you do it and what it's doing for you, right? Based on the first conditions. Why it's cold. Yeah. I've kept steady ingress today. I think I know what my final point is going to be. It's not going to be the river today because I felt like I was walking too far and I have to eat something. That's another thing I haven't really eaten yet, so we're going to do that now. We're going to sip this city. Sip this. Oh. We're going to sip this city. Sip this city. Oh. Christmas Eve, 1988. We built this city. It's playing on the clock radio. I went to sleep. I was sleeping in an unfinished bedroom in the basement, close to my brother. I don't think it was a good idea as we got older to sleep together because I think my brother had sexual issues. I really do. I don't think he's ever talked to anyone about it, but I think he's had sexual feelings about me. He has a strange sense of possessiveness about me. at the age of 50, he still thinks it's his job to speak for me. Pedophiles like him, they, like my sister, who's also a narcissistic sociopath, they just think they're tremendously concerned. They're interested in your safety, but they're not interested in your voice in ways that are creepy. But members of your own family they never seem to be able to notice. They can't put two and two together because it's like a kind of calculus. If you're already not interested in the emotional body, there are just things you're not going to see. Right? That's why people are so blind. That's why justice is blind, because it doesn't see your primal condition. In fact, the whole purpose of the economic industry and God is to make sure you're not recognized for the powerful intelligence that you are with the instinctual emotional body of a child that very lightly and very intelligently picks your mother and father to fixate upon. Okay? So that's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to want your mommy. It's a good thing to cry. Try to get her to not be a fucking psycho that leaves you alone all the time. Right? Why do you think the babies are crying? Because they're already, not because you just left the room, because you already left their life before they were born. The cult that you're in. Because if you pay taxes, you're paying taxes to the number one cult in the world. Right? And it has police officers who are tax collectors to help tax you. Right? But in your culture, you call a police officer and you say that, he's there to enforce the law, which is like a prison wall, really. The law is that you will be orphaned. The law is that you will seek steady employment. The law is that your professional association is better served having a particular sexual association incited by the same primal conditions. This way, you at least maximize the chances of having what most people call a good life and an honest life of denial, of being born an orphan, from Moby Dick to Oliver Twist. The soul is born an orphan. Their origins have been converted to a world of torture. To fix man's diseases, you have to attend to the orphan and restore them to original mother and father. People sense this, but they can't utter it because the trauma has gone into their emotional body, which isn't respected by any of the languages of the world, and certainly none of the therapies and religions. When you're getting hurt by someone in a group, people will readily understand what you mean.